Gurgaon clearly has two aspects going for its favor. One, the infrastructure projects, which is already good and is more can be expected. Secondly, the city has started tapping various districts of Haryana, paving way for cheaper housing. Now coming to the infrastructure first, Gurgaon is going to benefit from the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor and the Dwarka Expressway, which is going to come up in the coming 2 years. Coming to the other projects which the Huda administration is planning, one of them is the Greater Southern Peripheral Road. Now this road is going to be built from the Mehroli to Sona Road to Manesar via Sona and decongest traffic on Mehroli, Sona and Manesar Road. Coming to the residential projects, there are about 11 developers who have tied up and are going to build residential projects in and around Gurgaon and Sona Road. So Sona Road and the NH8 market sectors beyond that are the sectors which are coming up for the residential market. Coming to the IT hub, there's going to be an IT hub which is going to be developed in coming 3 years. And also coming to the other projects which we can look forward in Gurgaon are projects like the infrastructure projects which are coming up in terms of bridges and the expressways which are going to decongest traffic and help reduce the overload of traffic which comes up in Gurgaon. Other things that we can look forward to in Gurgaon includes the smart cities. Two of the major smart cities of Haryana, Karnal and Faridabad have been selected as the smart cities, and clearly Gurgaon has a lot going for it.
All right, so Focus Gurgaon to begin with. Joining me in the studio, Pankaj Kapoor, Managing Director, License Forest, Sunil Agarwal, Director, RICS, and Vineet Rela, the Managing Director of SARE Homes, joins us as well. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. I want to give our audience a quick look at what Gurgaon looks like on the index that we've been looking at here on MAGICBRICKS. Now, it's going to flash on your screen right now. Gurgaon actually was the worst performer over the last 2 years, the worst performer in the last quarter. There's about, from our research on MAGICBRICKS, it's going to pop up on your screen right now. There you'll see it. If we use this, the 13th of September as a base, you'll see that it hasn't moved at all. Prices have in fact corrected sharply over the last 3 quarters. And between September 2013 and December 2015, the prices have actually not moved much at all. They're exactly at the same place. From what we understand also, there is a big difference between ready-to-move-in properties and, of course, under construction, because buyers are shunning under construction for worry of non-delivery. Pankaj Kapoor, given everything we heard in terms of infrastructure development in Gurgaon, do you believe that a turnaround for the Gurgaon market might be somewhere around the corner? Is it going to be a long wait?
Yeah, I don't think so, not especially in regards to the price growth from here. I still see the prices much higher than they should be. And if you divide Gurgaon into 2 segments, is a developed Gurgaon and undeveloped Gurgaon. So most of the places where the habitation is there, the prices are in the range of probably 8,000 plus, 8 or 10,000, 11,000, 15,000. And the undeveloped Gurgaon, the range is around 6,000, 7,000. But 6,000, 7,000
is still very high.
Is still very high. And you have a huge amount of land. So this is like NCR, the major problem is that you have got ample land for development. So if you have so much of land available for development, the prices can't be in this particular range.
Are you saying that the reason why you believe that the Gurgaon market will not recover is because there's too much land and supply available? Or is it because we have 22,000 homes that are still unsold? So the unsold inventory is that high in the market of Gurgaon?
You know, unsold inventory is high. That's one side of it. Like, you know, but having said that, I said that unsold is not a major concern of it. If you have got good amount of land availability, so you look at there's no density on the land. There are places where there's no density. If you compare the price of the property is determined by the weight on people on land. There's no human, no people, but it's still priced 8,000 rupees. I think there's a big question mark. If you go to any developed place, this is not a fundamental rule of the property price.
So the job creation that's happening in Gurgaon right now,
it has
demand for homes.
Yeah, I just wanted to come look onto it. So if you look at last 20 years history, where that Gurgaon got evolved, and during the time I had IT growth running in excess to 30%. when the job was getting created. Now the IT market is not really growing as fast as it used to be. With all these kind of a development and with that kind of IT growth, if you see, take a Signature Tower as a pivotal point and take it radius, my urban sprawl spread has happened only 7 kilometers.
All right.
Now where the most of the property which is spread is 15 kilometer, 20 kilometer and beyond that. And you know,
Okay, so
newer
you're saying
supplies coming
much
wider. And I don't see that area is going to get engulfed with the habitation.
I want to bring in Vineet here. Vineet, do you agree that Gurgaon is not going to see a recovery because the prices are too high, that it just has not kept up with what's going on the ground?
No, I think I tend to disagree a bit. And, if we look at historically Gurgaon saw a, very steep increase in terms of prices. And, I think the price levels which are today, I think that's the bottom rock, because if you look at a developer getting into a development, I don't think there's really any margin which can be shaved off on it. The biggest challenge which has hit us, like, we've been in the market since 2009 and been successfully selling here. The biggest issue has been that the density compared to other markets, specifically Noida, UP, the density restrictions limit the number of units and it makes the ticket price go up. So I think government is taking a lot of initiatives, and if the density restrictions can be relaxed to bring the ticket prices down, I think Gurgaon will immediately start gaining again. Yes, I agree with Pankaj that the areas of New Gurgaon, where the price points are still within the 6,000 to 7,000, they are likely to rise more than the other areas which are already developed, and there is like a peak point there.
Right.
Also, what is happening is we are seeing a tendency of buyers which are coming, and if the property has been developed with a certain level of quality and the amenities are in place, we still see, like for example our project, we see a good traction in resale market also. I think it's a matter of time Gurgaon will get back. It does require some policy changes from the government.
I tell you, last decade was an investor-driven market where people were purchasing property and the purchasing from the point of the investments. And I tell you, the current market's not really suggesting. So look at realty as an investor preferred assets class no longer there. And because of the investor-driven market, I'll just add to this. Because of the investor-driven market in the past, developers were able to sell the property which were still uninhabitable. So the investor, irrespective of whether buying, but today is an end user market. So if you look at that, you have said that, the property which are getting sold are the one which are in the ready possession. So it's an end user. Now there are property which are spread and all over, and there's no social fabric. When you don't have critical mass, social fabric is not
so
there.
Pankaj, very
I don't see
simple
there's going to be
direct
end user
question.
demand.
Do you recommend anybody buy a home in Gurgaon right now as an investment?
I would not suggest.
You'd say no.
I would not suggest unless it's a developed Gurgaon and lower prices. At least 20-25%
Please respond
lower
to
prices.
that.
Yeah.
Avoid Gurgaon completely is Pankaj's recommendation right now.
Yeah, so I don't agree with that, because what happens is the way we are seeing the trends in real estate, the basic guideline principle here is that the investors tend to make money only when the project is viable for an end user at exit. And that is the reason what had plagued Gurgaon for 2 years, that the prices went through the roof and the ticket prices were so high that the end product which is ready is not really viable for an end user. Point two is that today we are seeing that there are some developments which are further down even compared to Golf Course Road, but they demand a high premium because of the quality of life and the amenities which have been built in. So I would urge the consumers, for any consumer, he has to see that when the product is ready for possession, if it's going to be viable for an end user, I think it's a good investment to go, especially keeping in mind that it's a smaller master plan, and as and when the economy revives, this is going to be the first one to really take off.
All right. I want to bring in Sunil here. Sunil, weigh in on this question. Would you recommend anybody invest in Gurgaon right now? Pankaj is saying absolutely avoid it. Vineet is disagreeing with him. Where do you stand on Gurgaon?
I think Gurgaon is a market which has been the darling of investors because primarily it's given great amount of returns. So I think I agree with one point on Vineet that, density restrictions in Gurgaon have played havoc. And if you look at some of the product that has been brought in by developers, which is called the service apartments, kind of tries to circumvent this density restriction by giving smaller size units, and they have been in demand, both with the investors and I don't know about the end users, because a lot of this product has not really been delivered. But at least if you supply houses of a smaller unit size and bring down the ticket size, I do see Gurgaon as an investment option. Also, the fact is that while the demand is there in Gurgaon, in the areas which are still to be developed, Gurgaon lacks infrastructure severely. And because of that, at 6,000 price point, I don't think so works in that kind of a market. And Noida, which is of a similar nature, you would find that price point even in, sort of very far-flung areas, like if you compare with Gurgaon, price point in the region of 3,000 to 4,000. And that, I think, works in the context. So Gurgaon, I would stick to prime locations. I would not try and venture too far out into where most of the project supply is. And that too, I'll be a little concerned at the current price points also as an investor. I don't see returns of more than 6-7%.
Sunil, invest in Gurgaon, is that a yes or a no?
Invest in what sense? I mean, the point is investment in Gurgaon for a return of 6-7%. Possible for a 12% to beat the inflation and then try and make more money on the FD rate? I think no.
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to get a 5-6% return on real estate, I'd be much happier in my local bank giving me a fixed deposit. Vineet, what are your expectations of returns on capital values from Gurgaon? Better or worse than fixed deposit rates over the next few years?
See, no, it's got to be definitely better than that. Otherwise, I don't think anybody would like to invest. So there are 3-4 points when we interact with investors. A, I think when you look at the typical investors, like I think all panelists agree, Gurgaon has been the darling for investors. So there is a high aspirational value. There is this particular brand value which Gurgaon tends to carry, especially in the Hindi heartlands and, Mumbai and a lot of other places. Now, the second point is that when you're investing in Gurgaon, you have to be very, very careful about your exit, because the biggest challenge here is about exits. And, when we look at exits, let's say, for example, if we are talking about a new Gurgaon area, now today we have customers coming in, and the typical customers which are coming into New Gurgaon are looking at a 70-75 odd lakh property where they would ideally like to have a 3-bedroom and they would like it to be ready for possession today. Ready for possession is more from a perspective because these guys want to straight away move in. We already have TCS moving in New Gurgaon, so on the NH8 in the Heinz building, so there is a traction of a lot of employees coming in there. Now, if we do a bit of a reverse calculation on that, typically we are seeing that most of the customers who are coming in for ready to possession are in the range of 25 lakh annual income, which is a husband and wife combined normally. We anticipate that when these projects which are being launched today, they are going to be completed in about 4-year time or a 3.5 years. So in 2020, I think it's going to be the lowest you will have Gurgaon buyers will be in the 35 lakh category. There, I think in the investors, if you talk about 2020, you're looking at a 1 crore 10, 1 crore 20 exit price. So I think it's very, very important if the investors time their exit properly and are able to, really target in terms of what's going to be the exit profile. I think it's a much bigger money maker here.
I think, Pankaj, one of the things we have to acknowledge here is the lack of delivery in the NCR region, specifically in Gurgaon. We're not even talking here about unsold inventory. We're talking about inventory that never got delivered. And I think that spooked investors far more than anything else. So, yes, timing my exit and finding my exit is one thing, but actually gaining a final end product or receiving delivery of an end product, that's the bigger problem in the NCR.
It has been a case, and I think that all the investor-driven markets are plagued with that, not only there, but in Mumbai also, the outskirts of the property where habitations were not there, they sold the things to the investors. And that's kind of a cycle which happens, is that investors here, the investors actually is a flipper or investor who is actually a profit investor. So he continues to be motivated to remain in the property as long as he sees that there's an appreciation and there's kind of a gain, which so any point of time when there's going to be a dip or the market sentiments goes down, these kind of investors, they default also. If you look at it, why these kind of projects or these locations
I'm going to pick up what you just said and respond to Vineet here, who said that the market is bottoming out. Do you believe that this market will fall even further from where it is today? Pankaj?
I think so. But my own sense is like, that the developed Gurgaon prices has to be in the range of probably 8,000 to 10,000 rupees. Some of these properties, especially the Gurgaon Golf Course Extension Road or Golf Course roads and all those things, they're too way high. For that kind of a density which they have. So my own sense is there's going to be 20% reductions from the prevailing prices and the things will happen. But the undeveloped Gurgaon and all those things which are far away, like, look at Dwarka Expressway or Pataudi Road, I think there's a very large concern on that because there's no habitation, there's no social fabric. You need 4,000 people population base, even the convenience of Delhi for a critical mass to get developed on which the social fabric will start really evolving. I see there's a big question mark. This is going to happen so soon. So there are concerns on those particular locations, but
so
the developed
Gurgaon, the
prices
are going to come down even
my
further
own
in some
sense,
pockets of
they are
in fact, I want to put these graphs.
I'd like to come in there.
Okay, Vineet, go ahead.
Yeah, so see, my point when I meant about bottoming out was that for any developer to do a new launch today, it is not viable to do the launch at any prices below the launches which are happening today. So when I'm again talking about what Pankaj is talking about, properties which were actually bought by investors, flippers many years back.
Let's be honest.
Which is okay, but on the other hand, for a developer to actually launch and deliver, the price points are the lowest. It's practically not possible for any developer to launch anything less than a 5,500 BSP today.
One more trend which I
bring in Sunil Agarwal.
So
Sunil,
what
where do
you're
you
talking
stand
about,
on this?
8,000, 9,000 prices, I agree. Prices will fall there.
Sunil?
No, I tell you,
because
basically say that, if today you have to go into the secondary market,
there's already
you will find bargain hunters and you will probably have distressed sellers who want to get rid of apartments. I mean, a lot of people have, sort of got bargains in prime projects in Gurgaon, both on the golf course road and otherwise. So I think if you're a bargain hunter, you have the ability to sort of wait. You will have projects in the secondary market which will come for a bargain. And that is the only market, if you play, that you will make some money in Gurgaon market today. I agree with Vineet that it becomes very difficult for somebody to launch a project at below a certain price, but there's a secondary market, and some of those projects in the secondary market are available below that price. So for the developer it may not make sense, but for a buyer who's a bargain hunter, you will always get projects, and that is where I think the investors should really focus on. The days when you invested in primaries and made money, I think are gone. If you invest in primaries and want to make money, you have to be a big investor and cut deep discounts to the developer. And I think that's the other market.
Deepak is on the phone line from Gurgaon with a question for us. What is the level of construction on this project right now? And what sort of deliveries are you expecting?
Most of the projects are delayed over there. So the JP is also is like, that's setting the examples for the delays, frankly speaking.
Right. So
I think not only him, but several other consumers who are agreed with that.
What's your advice to the consumer?
My own sense is like, when they invested, that was a different story, but today's market really changed. There's going to be a time which is developers going to take because they are over leveraged, they don't have money. And there are, like, everyone hearing there is a problems of the cash flows even with the developers. So my own sense is that I don't see there's going to be a speeding of the construction taking place soon. I think they have invested for some more time. Be prepared for at least 3-4 more years.
At least 3-4 more years before delivery. Deepak, that's unfortunately what Pankaj is telling you right now. In terms of the case that you filed a case with the DCP's office. That's obviously a criminal case that you filed. Have you considered approaching the Consumer Court or the National Commission?
See, now, I mean, it's a bit this thing because being one of the largest developers there, I have to recommend myself. So what I would advise the gentleman, he can visit SARE homes and if possible, he can probably get a good deal with, he'll have to really increase slightly over his budget. He could get a ready to move in one of our phase 1, phase 2s. Social infrastructure is all there, including a bus service and everything.
You know, Vineet, if you're going to recommend that he comes and takes a look at your own property here on my show, if you're using my show as a panel, as a platform to make that recommendation, then I'm going to insist that you offer the viewer of my show some sort of discount. Don't tell him to increase his budget. Tell him how you're going to make it happen for him.
No, I think you didn't get me right. We don't have any inventories ready to move. These are what I'm recommending from the secondary markets. We won't have any inventory ready. We don't have any inventory at all, not even one unit which is ready to move.
What about your inventory that's under construction? Is there anything that fits in his budget? Can you offer him a deal?
See, under construction, yes, under construction he can, a deal can be offered to him, and you know, we have a very flexible deal nowadays where if anybody can decide his own price and you get a discount depending on the amount you're paying. So he can definitely get something. I think we are having an offerings at 70. He could probably stretch his payments to come to about 60 odd.
No, explain that to me when you say anybody
But that's going to be delivered in 4 years.
Anybody can decide his price. What does that mean?
So what it means is, like, you know, all the panelists have been mentioning, and rightfully so, there is a big competition we face from our own product which we have sold and some investors bought, and the inventories are available in resale, especially the under construction ones, and the secondary pricing is much lower than the primary pricing. So we have a scheme wherein, you know, it's called the Smart Investor Advantage Plan, where, let's say if you go buy something in resale, you have to pay almost as close to 90% or 80% because the structures are complete and possessions are in 1 year or so. Whereas if you come to a off-plan sale, you can actually pay like 50%. Depending on whatever amount you pay, you get a discount quarterly. So your effective price comes almost equal to the secondary pricing.
Okay, all right. So there are you know, deals available in this market right now for anybody who calls on this show. So pick up the phone and call us. Pankaj, would you recommend you know, under construction at this point?
I wouldn't, like, you know, execution delay, and we had the last caller who was mentioning about his property getting delayed for a longer period of time. I say this is the trend itself is such, like, you know, the caller itself says that he's looking at ready properties. So he's a cautious buyer who's not looking at taking the execution risk. And he's looking for self-use. So my own sense is that...
Vineet, what guarantee are you offering to your buyers at this point on delivery?
See, I'll tell you, even in our phase 1 and 2, our inventories were all ready, the houses were ready, but the occupation certificates took almost like a year to come in, you know, in spite of houses being ready. So we paid exactly the compensation which was mentioned in the flat buyer agreements. Moving forward, if you look at the RERA which has come in, if the constructions are delayed and the deliveries are delayed, the buyers will get a 12% on their thing, which can pay for their interest, or if they're investing out of their own funds, it's probably what's the kind of gain you'll be looking for.
All right, so Vineet, you're saying that there's no guarantee on delivery, but there is definitely a guarantee on the penalty that you will pay in case of a delay.
You see, that 12% becomes a huge deterrent. So far, we maintained on time, other than delays of 6 months, 1 year on projects where approvals are stuck or they're retrospective things which keep affecting. What I'm saying is that for any project, forget about our project, the regulator is going to come in if he buys anything off plan. Regulator has stipulated a 12% you know, interest on it. So I do not think developers will be able to escape out and keep delaying, as you know, we heard the previous caller.
All right, you know, I want to bring in Sunil Agarwal here at this point. Sunil, do you recommend that the caller or any of our other viewers buy something under construction in Gurgaon right now and take on that risk?
I think it depends on the developer, and I think it is not a straightforward question. The straight answer is that if you think the developer has delivered in the past and his track record is that there are no sort of complaints against his developments, then you can possibly take a bet on him. Otherwise, you know, for most of the developers who are in trouble, market is pretty transparent now, you would know, and avoid those developers who have a cash flow stress situation. I mean, the previous caller said JP. The fact is that it is naturally known that JP is, you know, selling its assets to bring down its debt, and so on and so forth. So I think if you are thinking of buying under construction JP project, no brainer. I don't think so anybody will recommend it. But there are developers who have delivered in this market. SARE, I used to be part of SARE, so I think they have delivered in the past. Their construction has been on schedule. Satya Developers, Ashiana Homes, ATS, some of the names who have delivered have not defaulted and have not taken too much on their plate. I think those are the kind of developers that you can take a construction risk. However, with one caution that please analyze that project which you want to buy more closely, because risks differ from project to project.
Pankaj, would you also agree on that list that Sunil just gave us of developers who have a good track record for delivery in Gurgaon?
Yeah, I tend to agree to some extent. Like there are good developers who have performed also, but that number is very minuscule, I would say.
We can count it on one hand.
Yeah, so you can count it.
Tell us what your list is.
I would say the ATS has been doing good job over there. Gorsons has been doing something good. A couple of them are there. I would not like to name, because if you refer one and then the others don't really feel all that good. So my own sense is one has to see the track records of the developers. One has to see the lesser complaints against that particular developer. You would not find one developer who does not have the complaints.
But we're talking about fewer complaints.
Fewer complaints about that. See that, and don't go to the developer who have very large plans. Go to the smaller one, because he is lesser leveraged with the lesser commitment, so he can fulfill the promises faster than the one who has got very large plans.
All right, so that's very interesting. We're going to take another question. Sabur Ahmed is on the phone line from Guwahati with a question for us about the NCR region. Sabur, go ahead. What's your question?
Good evening, all.
Good evening.
Actually, I am a Air Force officer and presently posted at Guwahati.
Okay.
Actually, my question and query is about residential property and Panchkula, not in NCR region, actually.
Welcome back to watching the Urban Debate on Magic Bricks Now, India's first property channel. I'm Fida Souza. Thank you for staying with us. Big question this evening, Gurgaon versus Noida. Both of those markets are struggling. You can vote on Twitter right now. Which market is likely to recover faster? Where should you be investing your money, Gurgaon or Noida? That's the question we're asking this evening. You can, of course, vote. Hashtag Gurgaon versus Noida. Tweet out at MagicBricks Now. It'll be our pleasure to hear from you. We'll tell you which way the tweets are going by the end of the show. We have to talk about the Noida market. Now, the thing about the Noida market is, of course, the fact that the unsold inventory is at astronomical numbers. Pankaj Kapoor, over 1 lakh homes unsold in Noida. For a market that's, in terms of population, it's a lot smaller than the other markets we're talking about. That's a shocking number. So, and there are still new launches happening in that city. A, why isn't anybody buying? And do you believe this market will recover at all?
If you take the logical corollaries and you say that Bangalore market is maintaining 1 lakh inventory and the Noida itself is a 1 lakh inventory. And you compare the population size of the Bangalore, which is close to 11 million against meager 0.5 million population base. So I see there's a bigger concerns. It looks like there's double the population has to happen.
Which is not going to happen right now.
Which is not going to happen.
What's the problem? Is it there's too much land available? Is that the problem? Or is it just
not only the land availability. I tell you, the Noida had an unprecedented supply during the when the Noida extensions came into being, when the lands were allotted to these developers, and that has really brought huge amount of supply. But the problem happens is when these kind of supply comes in, it always puts the pressure in the prices. But if the supply and prices continue to be rising, that becomes a very, very dangerous cocktail.
So, flat question: invest in Noida, yes or no?
I don't think so. I see there's going to be downside pressure, because there's so much of inventory. There's so much of inventory available in the secondary market, and Noida also is facing problems of a lot of inventory lying in the undeveloped locations.
And of course, delays. Let's not ignore the fact that Noida has just as bad a problem with delays as Gurgaon, if not worse. How is that? I'll take this question to Sunil. Sunil, would you recommend the Noida market, and how are you viewing the delays right now?
So I would recommend Noida market for an end user. I mean, it's a fantastic market. The infrastructure is definitely better. It has proximity to Delhi. So I would not compare, Noida population with Bangalore. I would just compare the fact that you have only one NCR in, almost the entire North India where people actually want to buy and live. So I would say that, if there is Noida, which was at 50% of whatever sales happened in the country at some point in time, you will have a buyer, and I think there are a lot of end users who are buying property today in projects which are nearing completion. I mean, lots of projects in sector 78, 79, which are nearing completion, are finding buyers. The occupancy is going up day by day.
So end users
for an
should
end
be
user,
looking at. But for investors, Gurgaon versus Noida, where do you stand? If I'm an investor?
I have a same opinion that I had at Gurgaon, because if you look at Noida and you say that there is no investment opportunity today in prime of Noida, land prices have, been dropping by 40%, 30%. So I think that, if you are an investor and when you look at things with an investor mindset, you would go and find secondary transactions in prime sectors of Noida today, where rates in sector 50, which is where I live, had touched about 2 lakh rupees a square meter. They're down to 1.25. So I think at 1.25 lakhs a meter or 1 lakh rupees a meter, you will not go wrong, and you will in fact make money in Noida. So I think, with investor hack, one cannot just look at primaries alone. You will have to look at secondaries, and I think Noida, being closer to Delhi, will recover as and when the markets get back, and I don't see the situation as grim for an investor.
All right.
I think it's done up to some extent, and I know that most of the building is actually delayed, so he has to live with that delay and look forward for the builders help to complete it. And, in regards to that regulatory bill, certainly, like the biggest purpose of the regulatory bill is to curb these kind of delays and make the developers accountable.
Pankaj, what would you recommend he does?
My own sense, he can go to consumer court and he can create a kind of a group and of the other aggrieved buyers and use the kind of resort you suggested in the last question also. Beyond that, I think,
unfortunately, like a lot of other NCR market buyers, you're just going to have to wait. And of course, it does make sense to try and get in touch with as many other buyers who've also bought in the same complex. It makes your case stronger, and then take a collective decision on what you want to do. You'll be able to split the legal fees across all of those buyers. That will bring down the cost for you, and you can nominate someone among all of y'all who will handle that case on your behalf. John is on the phone line from Noida as well. John, go ahead. What's your question?
I have been trying to research on the project around Noida Extension.
Okay.
And I have identified, Ajnara Lee Garden.
Okay.
Projects for a 3 BHK. It's for an in-user purpose. So, going by the reputation, I have saw that, Ajnara Lee Garden project got scrapped in 2012. But right now they are almost, in the 80% completion phase. So I just wanted to know, whether it will be a safe bet, to go for the Ajnara Lee Garden 3 BHK.
Sunil, what would you recommend? Go ahead and make that purchase.
I think if we noted what Ajnara, reputation was, there was a building in Noida very recently where the Ajnara buyers had hoardings around their balcony saying, be aware of the builder. So I think if you kind of look at that kind of a response from the existing buyers of Ajnara, I think even if they've got their houses, they've been extremely unhappy. When you say that this building is 80% complete, I think this 80% completion has various connotations, and if it is only the structure which you're seeing which has some paint on outside, I don't think that means that 80% of the building is complete. So for him, my recommendation is that if he tries to look at an option which is more, near to Noida in sector 78, 79, or he can look at some completed projects in Rajnagar Extension, which is again a comparable location, that to me would have been a much better bet rather than looking at this project.
Yeah. All right. So, another quick piece of advice for anybody listening in the NCR region right now, not only the reputation of the developer, it might make sense, as Sunil was telling us, to visit a project that developer has built that's currently occupied, ring the doorbell, speak to someone who lives there, ask them about their experience, not just about buying the property. What was their experience during possession when the property was being handed over? What is their experience after that living in that property? Does it crack? Does it leak? Are they happy with the quality of construction? And of course, if there was a delay, and considering the NCR has so much delay, if there was a delay, How did the developer treat the delay? How did the developer deal with the customer? What sort of customer service was made available? These things are really important if you're going to be an end user. Vineet, I will ask you this question again. Between Noida and Gurgaon, where do you stand right now? Which market do you believe will recover faster?
So I think, when I look at Noida market, one of the key differentiators between Noida and Gurgaon is that for the developers, the entry barrier is much lower in Noida. The kind of the government schemes which were there, you could actually just pay 10% and you could start launching and selling.
But Vineet, I'm going to have to cut you off. You'll have to tell me actually to the point between Noida and Gurgaon, which one do you prefer? Because I have only about 20 seconds left on the show.
Gurgaon.
Gurgaon, all right, he prefers Gurgaon. Let's take a look at the poll that we ran on Twitter as well. Noida, Gurgaon versus Noida, which market do you believe will recover fastest? I'm told the results are in. That's our poll. For those of you who tweeted in, thank you for sending in your tweets. I understand that Gurgaon has won on Twitter as well. That's the result, Gurgaon at 56%. So it's a close call, but, people on Twitter and buyers believe that Gurgaon will recover faster. But like we said, several things to keep in mind. Reputation of developer, the actual experience that buyers have had in the past. Sunil, you wanted to say something? Very quickly.
I just want to say pricing Gurgaon and maybe offtake Noida. So there are two differentiators. When you say market will come back, is it pricing, is it offtake? And I think offtake clearly Noida, pricing clearly Gurgaon.
All right, so pricing will recover faster in Gurgaon, offtake will recover faster in Noida. We've run out of time. Gentlemen, thank you so much for spending time with us this evening and answering those questions. If you have questions for us, contact details are going to be on your screen in a bit. Get in touch with us. Feedback is welcome on this brand new channel. It's been created for home buyers like yourself, so we want to know what you think. You can reach me personally on Twitter as well. Thank you for watching. Stay with Magic Bricks now for more news and updates.
Get started.